the association. Oh, there we go. David manages the association, media's relations, market intelligence, political activities, and works with elected leaders and government staff in the, the development of housing policies. Prior to joining the Bay East staff, David worked in municipal government for more than 12 years, managing a variety of housing and community development programs. David even served as a 2014 chairman of the board of directors for the Pleasanton Chamber of Commerce, where I first met David on the board there. So please welcome a longtime friend, David Stark.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Sir.
I'm doing something a little bit different this year. Well, first, I want to thank Sherry for reaching out. Appreciate the opportunity to come in and participate with you this morning. I'm doing something a little bit different this year. I'm capturing my market update presentations on social media. So I've got a favor for everyone. If you could turn your camera on and make some kind of wave gesture, I want to capture that. And if it's okay, I'm going to put that on the social media. So Stacy, Logan, and Kiki, I know that you're out there. Maybe just turn your cameras on just for a second, and Susie, and just kind of wave. I'll put that on the social media. Okay, boy, what a good looking group. There you go. Okay, awesome. All right, enough of that ridiculousness. You can turn your cameras off and go back to Mahjong. Or anyway, sorry. Um, Again, really appreciate the opportunity, and I recognize also that there's a lot of stuff that's going on, particularly on the national scene. So Sherry, thank you for acknowledging that. And for the other presenters earlier, thank you for sharing some good news. I'm going to share some good news as well, although it's a matter of perspective. And speaking of share, I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. Stand by for a second. Can you see my slides? Jody, I can see you kind of in my peripheral, so can you see my first slide there?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. I'm going to try to share some good news as well. And there's some context around this. And the context is, if you take a look at what's been happening in residential real estate in the past couple of years, we really haven't had a normal year in years. You go back to 2019, and you can see that this is a chart of single-family detached homes that were listed for sale on the multiple listing service. And during 2019, we saw a significant increase in homes that were listed for sale. It was a very different real estate year, pretty much compared with the previous decade. There were more choices for buyers. The pace of sales slowed down. There was more negotiation between buyers and sellers, and there was some price stabilization. And we were very enthusiastic about those market conditions going into 2020. And of course, the world changed significantly in 2020. We continued to have some challenges through 21. We get into to 2022, and this was the point where we started to hear rumblings about interest rates, mortgage interest rates changing. So there was a flurry of real estate activity in 2022 as sellers realized, if I want to do something and have this low interest rate on my mortgage, I need to do it now. And that's exactly what happened as rates peaked in the 7% range towards the end of 2022. We saw sellers come out of the market. We saw buyers press pause on what they wanted to do. And 2023 was a very quiet year for residential real estate activity. Then we get into 2024, and conditions changed once again. And we had some really encouraging news in 2024. Even in the light of interest rates in the 6 to 7% range, sellers realized if they wanted to do something, they weren't going to wait for rates to change. So buyers had a lot more choices during 2024. And before I leave this slide, the other thing I want to point out is you'll notice that I've got some numbers that are highlighted on this chart. Each of those numbers represents the month during the year when we had peak inventory. And what's remarkable is that peak inventory for the last several years didn't happen during the spring, which was sort of the traditional busy buying season. Peak inventory has gotten later and later and later in the year, starting with the pandemic. And the interesting tidbit here is that from a real estate professional's perspective, people are buying, selling homes whenever they need to or want to. They are no longer, waiting until the spring. They're getting to the market when it makes sense for them. Now, there's clearly a trend where things start to slow down during the winter holiday season, but it's just remarkable how the whole seasonal nature of real estate has been turned on its head slightly. So this is a month-to-month aggregation of homes listed for sale throughout the East Bay. I want to show you a slightly different perspective. So this is a different perspective that's based on the average number of homes that were available for sale throughout Alameda and Contra Costa counties on an annualized basis. And you can see comparing 2023 with 2024, a significant increase in the choices that are available for buyers. One thing that I do want to point out, though, is that 2022 year, that's going to be really important because all those folks that bought and sold homes during 2022, that pulled a lot of inventory off the market, and it'll be a while before we see the homes that were sold in 2022 re-enter the market. So we're going to be feeling the reverberations of that very busy year for the years to come. And hopefully this way makes it a little bit easier to visualize just the change in options for buyers. We're going to get a lot closer to home and take a look at 4 communities in the Tri-Valley area: Dublin, Livermore, Pleasanton, and San Ramon. And you can see that Livermore consistently leads all these communities in terms of choices for buyers because geographically it's a larger community. So by default, that there are just going to be more choices available. And those East Bay trends that I was showing earlier resonated in the Tri-Valley as well. So when we talk about these larger geographic aggregations, it wasn't just 1 or 2 communities that were pushing the averages for the area. These trends with more choices for buyers during 2024, that was happening throughout the region here in the Tri-Valley as well. And I want to shift now to this monthly average aggregation. And you can see that in Livermore, on average, 36 homes for sale per month during 2023. That increased to 52 homes for sale as well. So it was a palpable, tangible thing. And speaking with real estate professionals, they felt it as well. So we've got significantly more choices for buyers during 2024. We're also operating in an interest rate environment in the 6 to 7% range. What did that mean for prices? So before we get to prices, I've got something new this year. If you've seen my presentations before, I really haven't talked about condos, but the options for condos and townhomes also significantly greater. If you're wondering, well, why did San Ramon lead the region if Livermore is the largest geographically? Significant new construction in attached product in San Ramon over the years. So there was simply just more condos being built in that community, which has driven the fact that there are more condos on the resale market as well, and a similar trend in Dublin. Livermore and Pleasanton trail those 2 communities because we simply haven't seen that many new condos brought onto the market. And here's our monthly averages for condos, and you can see San Ramon leading from 18 condos for sale on average during 23 to 31. Livermore goes from 10 to 19. So the condo market is it's a different thing. The number of transactions are often fewer than we have in the single family detached, but I am starting to wade back into the condo market. So you are going to see some analysis for condos as we go through this presentation. What about those prices? I kind of teased it a few seconds ago. Here are the prices. So we're going to compare our 4 Tri-Valley communities with the East Bay median. So that dotted blue line at the bottom of the screen, that's the median sales price for single-family detached homes in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. And you can see that all 4 of our communities are leading the East Bay. Livermore, the most quote unquote affordable compared with San Ramon, Pleasanton, and Dublin. Our median during 2024, 1.27, which is a significant amount of money. And what's remarkable is we see an increase in sales prices at the same time that we saw an increase in supply. So the big takeaway there is even with more choices compared to 23, even in an interest rate environment in the 6 to 7% range, the desirability of homeownership in the Tri-Valley is still extremely high, to the point that we saw price increases across the board and definitely in Livermore as well. Not dramatic, double-digit percentage increases, but still a marginal increase in sales prices. We take a look at condos and townhomes. The East Bay median is in the mid 600s. You get into the Tri-Valley, and Dublin is fetching almost $1 million for a condo. If you're wondering, well, what is up with condos in Dublin? And I know that Dublin sometimes is the target of some derision. The bottom line is that the condos and townhomes that are available in Dublin, they're newer, they're nicer, they're larger. They're not these kind of traditional starter homes. They are in many cases forever homes because they are new and they've got significant amenities. And you can see that buyers are willing to pay a premium for the condo and townhome experience in Dublin. Livermore and Pleasanton right in there in the 790 range. Marginal increase in Pleasanton from 758. You can see that prices actually came down slightly from 23 in Livermore, but still solidly in the high 700 range. We take a look at where Alameda and Contra Costa counties stack up with the rest of the Bay Area. We're going to pull out our perspective a little bit, shift to a data source from our California Association of Realtors. And while you may find, $1.3 million to be breathtaking, because it's a lot of money compared with the rest of the Bay Area, particularly the Peninsula, South Bay, the East Bay is still a relative bargain. And if you're wondering, how can I say it's a relative bargain? You look at San Mateo County at their median in the $2 million range. We are looking pretty good compared to San Mateo. And given the economic interests of the chamber and how Livermore is positioned geographically, we will still remain a very desirable place, not just because of our relative affordability, but because of the fact that as employers are asking people to come back into the office, geographically, we're still in a great location. We are much closer than the communities east of the Altamont. So if you do have to make that drive, you can make that drive. At the same time, we've got a mix of housing stock that allow for people to work from home. We've got more bedrooms in our homes compared with other areas, particularly in the Tri-Valley. So we're still in this sweet spot in terms of affordability and location. Next, we're going to take a look at sales activity. And this to me is a real litmus test as to the health of real estate markets. So we see an increase in options for buyers. We see prices going up. And what happened with sales activity? We see an increase in sales activity. So buyers were able to handle that slightly higher price tag, marginal increase in sales activity compared with 23 to 24. Now, as I mentioned, 22 was a real watershed year because we saw a whole bunch of product come onto the market. You take a look at the sales activity in 2021, we were still operating in that 3% interest rate environment. The ability to make a change, either because you were able to work remote or your buying power was higher, is truly reflected in sales activity. We see this drop off in sales activity, and to be clear, this does not reflect the desirability of homeownership in the Tri-Valley and Livermore specifically. It is more indicative of the fact that there were fewer choices because a lot of people bought homes in 21 and 22. So this drop off in sales activity that we experienced in 23 was a combination of fewer choices and buyers saying, I thought that I was going to be able to get a mortgage in the 3% range. I'm now looking at 6 or 7%. I'm going to take a pause. That's exactly what they did. They come back into the market in 2024. There aren't as many choices as there were in previous years, but there was still a marginal increase, and we saw those increases across the board. This is for single-family detached homes. We take a look at condo sales. It's a smaller market, so the changes are going to be a little bit different. Significant increase in San Ramon, marginal increase in Livermore. So when we talk about a condo coming in the high $700,000 range, buyers aren't batting an eye. They realize that the livability, the amenities, the community that you all have created is still very desirable. They're willing to pay a premium. And yeah, there were a lot more condos sold in 21, 23. It's going to be a few years before those recycle onto the market. But those condos and townhomes that were on the market, they were sold and they were enthusiastically purchased by buyers. I think that's what I've got. If you would like me to share these slides, I'm happy to do so. My email address is davids@bayeast.org. I can pop that in the chat as well. You can also call or text me. And Chair Amos, I'm not sure if there is time for questions. Oh, there's no time for questions. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, anyway, in all seriousness, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes if there's any time for any questions.
I had a really quick question. I was talking to a real estate agent recently about the 321 loans that were kind of popular a couple years ago, where people were able to kind of put money into sort of an escrow account to help buy down their interest rate. And that as the third year cycle, ended, the interest rates were that they were higher payments required. And that this particular real estate agent expected there to be some additional inventory coming on because people were going to be able to keep their homes at the higher interest rates. Have you heard of this? What's your feedback on it? Would love some more information.
I haven't heard of that product specifically, and I was hoping that there would be a lender on the call that I could kind of tag team with. When I say interest rates in the 6 to 7% range, I always give that range because while the media may report what Fed policy is and how that might resonate in mortgage interest rates, I always emphasize that your results may vary. And while the interesting products that we saw back in the early 2000s don't exist anymore, there's always a possibility that lenders will have, something unique that they can bring to the market. What I find is remarkable is that while we did see a pause in activity as both buyers and sellers were reassessing their options, you go from, several years in the 3% range. That's a lot of buying power, not just for buyers, but it opens up a lot of options for sellers, knowing that, hey, I can take my equity and leverage that with a super low interest rate mortgage. Maybe it's time to make a change. So when we saw interest rates change so dramatically during that period, 21, 22, it not only impacted buyers, but it impacted sellers because suddenly their options shrank. And what's remarkable about 2024 is that clearly both buyers and sellers, because they are the ones that are driving inventory, realized I'm not going to wait. If I need to make a change, I'm going to wrap my mind around the fact that I'm not going to get a mortgage for 3%. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but the financing options that are out there clearly are a factor. And then it's just this perception of, hey, if I'm going to make a change, this is what my payment's going to be. It's not what I thought it was going to be 4 years ago, and people are okay with that. Did I answer your question, or did I answer a different question that I wanted to answer?
I'm pretty sure that you, as the speaker that you are, answered the question you wanted to answer, but I learned something anyway. So thank you, David.
Okay, Jody, I think I scared everybody.
All good. Thank you, David. Great to see you. And
Yeah,
thank you
I'll
for
pop
the
my email in the chat as well.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Again, great to see you, and thank you for the market update here in the Tri-Valley. We appreciate all the information you've provided. It's an absolute honor to be here with you all this morning, so thank you all. As we come together in spirit of leadership, service, and community, being a part of the community means more than just sharing a location. It means sharing a vision, a commitment, a responsibility to make a difference. So thank you all for being here and providing your updates. Our next meeting is Wednesday, March 5th, with a presentation by Livermore Joint Valley Unified School District. I messed that up a little bit. LVJUSD, thank you. And we will see you all next month.